The RMS Imperium was a majestic vessel, known for its luxurious amenities and grand voyages across the Atlantic. However, there was one cabin that passengers and crew alike whispered about with fear, cabin 227. Legend spoke of a passenger who had disappeared without a trace decades ago, leaving behind an eerie silence and a cold draft that never seemed to dissipate. Emma and her friends had booked their tickets for a summer adventure, excited to explore Europe. Little did they know, they would be assigned cabin 227. As they unpacked, Emma felt an unexplainable chill in the room. Her friends laughed it off, attributing it to the ship's air conditioning. But Emma couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The first night, Emma woke up to the sound of water dripping. She groggily got out of bed, only to find the bathroom completely dry. Confused, she returned to bed, but the dripping continued. It seemed to echo from the walls, growing louder and more insistent. Emma's heart pounded as she realized the sound was coming from beneath the floorboards. Over the next few days, strange occurrences became more frequent. Emma's belongings would go missing, only to reappear in odd places. The lights would flicker, and shadows seemed to dance on the walls. Her friends noticed too, growing increasingly uneasy. One night, they decided to confront the cabin steward. The steward's face turned pale when they mentioned cabin 227. He hesitated before sharing the story of Mary Hargrove, a young woman who had vanished from the cabin in the 1950s. Her disappearance was never solved, and since then, strange happenings plagued anyone who stayed in cabin 227. The steward warned them to be cautious and to leave if things got worse. That night, Emma dreamt of a woman in a tattered dress, her face twisted in anguish. She reached out, begging for help, but Emma couldn't move. She woke up drenched in sweat, her heart racing. Her friends had similar nightmares, each describing the same woman. They decided it was time to leave the cabin. As they packed, the room grew colder, and a heavy fog filled the air. The door slammed shut, trapping them inside. Panicked, they tried to pry it open, but it wouldn't budge. The fog thickened, and the silhouette of the woman appeared. Her eyes were hollow, and her mouth moved in silent screams. The friends huddled together, feeling an oppressive weight pressing down on them. Emma mustered the courage to speak, asking the spirit what she wanted. The ghost's eyes fixed on Emma, and a cold wind blew through the room, extinguishing the lights. In the darkness, they heard whispers, unintelligible yet filled with sorrow. Suddenly, the fog lifted, and the door flew open. The friends bolted out of the room, not daring to look back. They ran to the ship's security, who escorted them to another cabin. The new room felt safe, but Emma couldn't shake the feeling that the ghost of cabin 227 was still with them. The rest of the cruise was uneventful, but the friends remained on edge. On the final night, Emma woke up to find a note on her pillow. It was written in a spidery script. "Help me find peace." Emma's blood ran cold as she realized the ghost was not done with her. Determined to uncover the truth, Emma and her friends began researching Mary Hargrove's disappearance. They discovered that Mary had been involved in a forbidden romance with a crew member. When her lover was caught, he was dismissed, and Mary was left heartbroken. She vanished soon after, presumed dead by suicide. Emma knew they had to help Mary find peace. They returned to the ship, seeking out the crew member's descendants. After much searching, they found his granddaughter, who agreed to perform a ritual to appease Mary's spirit. The ritual involved an offering of personal items and a heartfelt apology for the past wrongs. Back in cabin 227, Emma and the crew member's granddaughter performed the ritual. The air grew thick with tension, and the ghostly figure of Mary appeared once more. She looked at them with tear-filled eyes, and as the granddaughter spoke the words of apology, a sense of calm washed over the room. The ghost of Mary Hargrove slowly faded, her expression one of peace and relief. The room warmed, and the oppressive atmosphere lifted. Emma felt a weight lift off her shoulders, knowing they had helped Mary find the closure she needed. As the RMS Imperium sailed into the horizon, Emma and her friends knew they would never forget their encounter with the ghost of cabin 227. They left with a newfound respect for the supernatural and the power of unresolved emotions. The legend of cabin 227 continued, but now it was a story of redemption and peace. The SS Specter was an old cruise ship, once a grand vessel of the early 20th century, now refurbished for modern voyages. Its inaugural trip after restoration promised an unforgettable journey across the Caribbean. However, the ship carried a dark secret whispered among maritime historians, rumors of a cursed voyage that had left its mark on the ship. Aboard the SS Specter, Julia and her husband Mark were excited for a romantic getaway. Their cabin was luxurious, and the staff were exceptionally friendly. Yet, from the moment they boarded, Julia felt an unexplainable unease. She dismissed it as pre-vacation jitters, eager to relax and enjoy the cruise. The first few days were blissful. They enjoyed the sun, the sea, and the onboard entertainment. But as the ship sailed into deeper waters, strange things began to happen. Julia woke up one night to find Mark staring out the porthole, his eyes wide with fear. He claimed he had seen a figure floating outside, a woman in old-fashioned clothing, her eyes lifeless and staring. Julia tried to comfort him, but the image haunted them both. The next day, they met an elderly couple who shared a similar experience. They spoke of seeing a ghostly figure wandering the hallways at night, always disappearing before they could approach. The couple believed the ship was haunted, and their fear was palpable. Determined to uncover the truth, Julia and Mark started investigating. They spoke with the crew, many of whom were reluctant to discuss the ship's past. One night, they cornered a cabin steward who reluctantly shared the story of the cursed voyage. Decades ago, the SS Specter had been part of a rescue mission for a sinking ship, but only one survivor was found. A woman named Eliza, who died shortly after being rescued. Eliza's death was shrouded in mystery. Some said she had been cursed. Others claimed she was the curse herself. Her ghost was said to haunt the SS Specter, seeking vengeance for her untimely death. Julia and Mark were skeptical, but couldn't deny the eerie occurrences. That night, they were awakened by a chilling wail echoing through the corridors. They followed the sound, finding themselves in front of the ship's chapel. Inside, the air was thick with a cold mist, and a figure knelt at the altar. It was the ghost of Eliza, her face contorted in grief and rage. Eliza's ghost turned towards them, her eyes burning with an otherworldly fire. Julia felt a cold hand grip her heart, and Mark collapsed to the floor, gasping for breath. Eliza's voice echoed in their minds, filled with sorrow and anger. She spoke of betrayal, of being abandoned to die in the cold sea, and of the curse she placed on the ship and its passengers. Desperate to survive, Julia begged Eliza for mercy. She promised to find out the truth about her death and to seek justice. Eliza's ghost hesitated, then vanished, leaving Julia and Mark trembling on the chapel floor. They knew they had little time to uncover the truth before Eliza's wrath returned. They delved into the ship's archives, finding old logs and records. The story they pieced together was tragic. Eliza had been falsely accused of treachery by the crew of the sinking ship. They believed she had caused the disaster, and in their panic and desperation, they abandoned her. The crew of the SS Specter had found her, but she died before she could clear her name. Julia and Mark knew they had to clear Eliza's name to break the curse. They presented their findings to the ship's captain, who was initially skeptical but agreed to hold a memorial service for Eliza. The service was held in the chapel, with the passengers and crew gathered to honor the lost soul. As the captain spoke of Eliza's innocence and the tragic events that led to her death, the chapel grew colder. Eliza's ghost appeared once more, her expression softening as she listened. Julia stepped forward, reading a heartfelt apology and a plea for forgiveness. The air grew still, and a sense of peace settled over the room. Eliza's ghost smiled sadly, her form shimmering before fading into the mist. The oppressive atmosphere lifted, and the ship seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. Julia and Mark knew the curse had been lifted, and the SS Specter was free from its haunted past. The rest of the voyage was serene, with no further ghostly encounters. Julia and Mark returned home with a deeper appreciation for life and the mysteries of the supernatural. They vowed to remember Eliza and to share her story, ensuring she would never be forgotten. The SS Specter sailed on, no longer haunted by the ghost of Eliza. Passengers marveled at its beauty, unaware of the dark history that had once plagued its decks. But for those who knew the truth, the ship was a testament to the power of redemption and the importance of seeking justice for the forgotten. The Ocean Empress was the crown jewel of luxury cruise liners, renowned for its opulence and world-class service. However, it also held a sinister reputation. Many who sailed on it spoke in hushed tones of a phantom that haunted the ship, a ghostly figure seen wandering the decks at night, searching for something lost to time. On a cold autumn evening, a group of friends, Sarah, Tom, and Lily, boarded the Ocean Empress for a long-awaited vacation. The ship's grandeur impressed them, and they eagerly explored its many amenities. Yet, as night fell, an uneasy feeling settled over Sarah. She couldn't shake the sense of being watched. The first night, Sarah awoke to the sound of footsteps outside their cabin. She opened the door to find an empty hallway, the lights flickering ominously. Dismissing it as her imagination, she returned to bed, but sleep eluded her. The footsteps continued, pacing back and forth, growing louder with each passing hour. The next day, Sarah shared her experience with Tom and Lily. They laughed it off, but Sarah noticed a flicker of fear in Lily's eyes. That night, the footsteps returned, accompanied by the faint sound of a woman crying. Sarah decided to investigate, determined to find the source of the disturbances. She followed the sounds to the ship's library, a grand room filled with antique books and plush chairs. There she saw a ghostly figure, a woman in a white dress, her face hidden by a veil. The ghost turned towards Sarah, her eyes empty and hollow. Sarah froze, unable to move or speak. The ghostly woman began to speak, her voice a mournful whisper. She told Sarah of her tragic fate, how she had been a passenger on the Ocean Empress many years ago. Her name was Eleanor, and she had been traveling to meet her fiancé. But he never arrived, and she was left waiting, her heart breaking with each passing day. Eleanor's spirit was trapped on the ship, bound by her grief and longing. She wandered the decks, searching for her lost love, unable to find peace. Sarah felt a pang of sympathy and promised to help Eleanor find closure. The ghostly figure vanished, leaving Sarah shaken but determined. The next morning, Sarah, Tom, and Lily scoured the ship's archives, looking for any records of Eleanor and her fiancé. They discovered that Eleanor's fiancé had indeed booked a passage on the Ocean Empress, but had mysteriously vanished before boarding. Rumors suggested foul play, but the case was never solved. The friends knew they had to uncover the truth to free Eleanor's spirit. They enlisted the help of the ship's historian, who provided them with old logs and documents. Piece by piece, they reconstructed the events leading to the fiancé's disappearance. They discovered that he had been accused of smuggling and had been thrown overboard by corrupt crew members. Armed with this knowledge, Sarah decided to confront Eleanor's ghost. She returned to the library that night, calling out to the spirit. Eleanor appeared, her eyes filled with sorrow and longing. Sarah explained what they had found, telling her that her fiancé had not abandoned her, but had been murdered. Eleanor's ghost wept, her form shimmering with grief. Sarah promised to hold a memorial service for her fiancé, to honor his memory and to ensure his story was told. The next day, the friends and the ship's crew gathered on the deck, holding a solemn ceremony for the lost soul. As they spoke words of remembrance, Eleanor's ghost appeared once more. She looked at Sarah with gratitude, her form gradually fading as she found the peace she had long sought. The air grew warmer, and a sense of calm settled over the ship. The Phantom was gone, her soul finally at rest. The rest of the voyage was peaceful, with no further ghostly sightings. Sarah, Tom, and Lily felt a profound sense of accomplishment, knowing they had helped Eleanor find closure. They returned home with a deeper understanding of the power of love and the lingering effects of unresolved sorrow. The Ocean Empress continued its voyages, now free from the haunting presence that had plagued it for so long. Passengers marveled at its beauty, unaware of the ghostly tale that had once unfolded within its walls. But for those who knew, the ship was a testament to the enduring power of love and the importance of seeking justice for the forgotten. Sarah, Tom, and Lily shared their story, ensuring Eleanor and her fiancé were never forgotten. They knew that while the Phantom of the Ocean Empress had been laid to rest, the ship would always carry the echoes of their love and the tragic tale that had bound them together in death.